to do that again because I didn't hear enough clapping. There it is. Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Let me know you're here. Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Now you're gonna echo me. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
To be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it
How
is.
sweet it is.
To be together on this day. Hine batov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine batov, umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
It is good to be with you on this Shabbat. It is good to be with you who are here in the room. It is good to be with you who are joining us online. Wherever you are, we are together building one joyful Jewish community. It is great to see you. If you are joining us online, we hope you'll introduce yourself in the chat and wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom so we know who's with us. If you're here in the room, we hope you are planning to join us for our community Shabbat dinner afterwards. We are thrilled that you are here. We are going to begin tonight by lighting candles, the prayers for which can be found on pages 3 and 2, and invite up Joe President to lead us in the blessings.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat Shalom. We welcome Shabbat with the words of Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20. Lecha Dodi, Mikrat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Ekavela. Adonai Echad out like a bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha u'vatzola, toch emunei hamsegula. Boi chala, lecha dodi, mitrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, lekabela. Lecha dodi, mitrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, lekabela.
Since you are already standing, now is a great moment to turn to your neighbor, introduce yourself, and wish them Shabbat Shalom. We remain standing for Baruch Hu on page 28. Join me at the top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
seated.
We continue with Ve'ahavta, page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta baham, veshivtecha bebetecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, Uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim leElohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem leElohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
On page 39, in the middle of the page, we pray responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
This table in Hebrew is called an amud. Some rabbis are Amud bangers, like that's just like a style. I didn't know I was an Amud banger. I think of this every year at this time until the summer. I worked at a Jewish summer camp in the mountains of Colorado, and we had a cement Amud in our outdoor chapel. Then I realized that I'm an Amud banger. We are going to continue with some joyful thanking God for the gift of Shabbat with the words of Vishamru on page 44.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. I need your help. Beini Uvei b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam Ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam Lasot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam.
We continue with the Amidah, which begins on page 46. Please rise as you are able.
Anananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Nananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha Ananananana Adonai Ananananana Svatai Tiftach Ananananana Ufi Agid
ata Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei v'neihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol ata Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Bechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melech, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. There is a prayer in the middle of the Amidah called the Hoda'ah prayer, which is all about gratitude and about noticing the miracles that happen to us every day. Anybody who's spent any time with me knows that that's my favorite prayer. And for our Hoda'ah prayer this evening, I want to offer you a poem by Mary Oliver that I think gets at the essence of what it means to try and notice even mundane miracles every day. It's called Mindful. Every day, I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It was what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. We offer now a prayer for peace with Shalom Rav on page 60.
Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech hador, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech hador, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam.
We take a few moments now for silent prayer.
Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We turn our prayers now to those who are in need of healing in our lives and in our community and in our world. We think of the people whose pains and illnesses we see and know about, and also those whose pains and illnesses we cannot see and cannot know. Those who struggle with chronic pain and chronic illness. Those who struggle with addiction and those who are in recovery. Those who are caretakers who work tirelessly day in and day out. We think of all of them as we offer prayers for healing. Tonight we are thinking in particular of Sarah Astrich, Elaine Betcher, Marcia Block, Bradley Borden, Ed Brook, Terry Brook, Melba Berman, Eileen Sersansky, Marie Cordova, Maya Creeder, Richard Dana, Barbara Fenton, Leon Finkelstein, Carol Friedman, Marcine S. Goldman, Chuck Green, Christina Howard, Cam Hunter, Richard Jackson, Sarah James, Lawrence Levy, Betsy Lewis, Bev Saltzman-Lewin, Magdalene Pessin, Leah Rabelais, Hattie Reese, Cooper Saul Roberts, Joel Ruby, Shirley Schnoll, Alan Selbst, Edward Simmons, Jerry Spencer, Lenny Weinberg, Yvonne Zients, Ariella Sharon Bat Yafa Shoshana, David Ben Chana, Gelka Nechama Bat Leba Chaya, Yehoshua Matityahu Ben Yaakov Preva Chana, and Zahava Bat Miriam Vishnir Zalman, and all who are suffering with afflictions of body, mind, and spirit. We offer these words of healing and hope on page 253.
Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the
couple of brief announcements for this Shabbat. The first is a joyful welcome to Amy Hartley and her family. Amy is our newest staff member, just started this week. So new, in fact, that I haven't totally memorized your title, Congregational Engagement Program and Engagement Coordinator. We are so happy that you are here. We are so happy that your family is sharing you with us and that we get to share in your family too, and we hope you feel at home. So if you haven't met Amy yet, you're like everyone because she just started, but you can meet her at dinner, introduce yourself, let her get a bite in though, please. Tonight is the second of our summer community Shabbat dinners. If you have no plans and you didn't RSVP, we have extra food. We want you to stay, so please hang out. Come join us in the Feld Hall immediately following this service for some food and drink. And then, if you're really feeling like you still haven't gotten enough Shabbat, at 8 p.m. is our warehouse Shabbat service. You're all the adults in the room are welcome to join us for that, and the bar and the ice cream and all those things that happen at warehouse Shabbat. So, like real grown-ups. That's in the multipurpose room.
I have an announcement. Okay. So this coming Thursday at 7 p.m., join me at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston in the Brown Auditorium Theater in the Law Building. I'm going to be part of a panel of Jewish faith leaders discussing the ritual objects in the new exhibit of Judaica coming from the Jewish Museum in New York City. It's a really beautiful exhibit. The panel will be bringing these objects to life. We'll be sharing personal stories about similar objects in our own lives, and there'll be a moderated discussion by Josh Furman following, exploring the real-world significance of Judaica. So I hope you'll join me at the museum.
On a totally different note, there are still a few tickets available for our congregational night at the ballpark on Tuesday, August 9th, as we watch the Astros play against the Texas Rangers. You can purchase your tickets on our website. Stay tuned to that website, emmanuelhouston.org, for all sorts of updates about things going on this summer. Having 3 daughters under 5 means I listen to a lot of Disney music. And of all the songs in the great Disney canon, the one most often requested is, of course, that utter earworm, "We Don't Talk About Bruno." My apologies to everyone in this room for whom the mere mention of Bruno has put the song on a repeating loop in your head. The song is from Encanto, a film from last year which tells the story of Mirabel, a young woman who is trying to find a place as the only member of her family without superpowers. Each family member has been gifted with a different ability. She has a sister who is super strong, an aunt who controls the weather, and Mirabel has no powers, so her family thinks and they shun and ignore her. Mirabel's uncle, Bruno, is also shunned, though for different reasons. He has the ability to see the future. His power was so upsetting to the people around him that eventually he went into hiding. And by the time Mirabel was a teenager, his name had become a taboo. When she brings him up, she is quickly told, "We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no." When my 2-year-old twins somehow have already learned that you have to do this when you sing no, 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 no. It's very cute. Of course, as soon as they say that, they launch into this jaunty ditty that is all about him, so I'm not sure this technically counts as a taboo. In this week's Torah portion, we encounter a Bruno, a guy we'd rather not talk about. At first blush, his stories seem so distasteful, so out of step with our values that a Reform rabbi like me tends to just avoid him completely. Which is easy to do because later in the Parsha we get the story of the daughters of Zelophehad, the closest thing the Torah has to feminist icons, so we usually just preach about that. But if you want to hear my sermon about them, you're going to have to stick around for Warehouse Shabbat later tonight. Here now, I'm going to break the taboo. We need to talk about Pinchas. At the end of last week's Parsha, we're told that God had sent a plague because a bunch of Israelite men had been led astray by a group of Moabite women who seduced them into acts of adultery and idolatry. In the midst of this plague, one Israelite priest, Pinchas, spots another nobleman named Zimri engaged in a scandalous act with a woman named Cosbi, and he takes matters into his own hands. He follows them to their tent, and he runs them both through with a spear. This act of murderous zealotry would be offensive enough, but what happens next is even more upsetting. Last week's parsha ends with the plague subsiding. Then in this week's portion, which is named for Pinchas, God says, Pinchas has turned back my wrath by displaying his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. Therefore I grant him my Brit Shalom, a covenant of peace. God gave Pinchas and his descendants a special role in the priesthood, leaving no question Pinchas's violent act was praiseworthy. It earned him a special covenant with God, a covenant of peace, no less. What are we going to do about that? You can see why I'd much rather preach about the daughters of Zelophehad. But alas, as Maribel's family learns, at some point you're going to have to talk about Bruno. I am troubled by God's praise for Pinchas's religious zeal. Does God want me to be like Pinchas? But what upsets me most is the reason for Pinchas's extrajudicial execution. What ignites his zealous rage is, essentially, an interfaith relationship. As a Reform rabbi deeply committed to building a diverse and loving Jewish community, I cannot abide by that. I would delete this text from our Torah if I could, but I can't. So instead, I must wrestle with it for some meaning. The historian Simon Ravidovich calls the Jews the ever-dying people. By that he means that the belief that unites every generation of Jews is the fear that they will be the last generation of Jews. Of course, every generation of Jews until now has been wrong about that belief, and yet this fear has shaped Jewish life from the Torah until now. This is the fear that motivates Pinchas to appoint himself judge, jury, and executioner. He sees someone who he believes might prevent the Jews from surviving long enough to even enter the promised land, and he moves to eliminate the threat before it spreads like a plague. He acts as gatekeeper, deciding for everyone what is acceptable for Jews and slamming the door closed on anyone he deems outside the boundaries. When I was coming of age in the Jewish community of the 80s and 90s, Jewish continuity were the buzzwords in every conversation. Billions of dollars were invested because my parents' generation was sure that they would be the first generation of the ever-dying people to actually be right. And one of the main targets of their efforts was interfaith marriage. I remember when I was growing up, it was always framed as the problem of intermarriage. And many of them chose to act as gatekeepers like Pinchas, taking it upon themselves to decide who was in and who was out. I remember my childhood rabbi giving sermons on the high holy days about this threat. I pride myself on being a very different rabbi than him, at least when it comes to this issue. Because I know that interfaith families are not a threat to Jewish continuity, but I would argue essential to it. Recent studies have shown that the intermarriage rate among non-Orthodox Jews is 72%. Jewish communities that draw the gates tightly closed, excluding these families, do so at their peril. But it is more than just a numbers game. Interfaith, or some call them Jewish plus families, contribute to the vibrancy of this community. Many non-Jewish parents are the ones driving their kids to religious school. Many people see themselves as a part of the Jewish community even if they were not born Jewish, even if they have no intention or interest in conversion. These are folks that we have come to call Jewish adjacent, the people who love, support, and sustain Jews and Jewish communities because that is where they feel at home. It only occurred to me years later that when my childhood rabbi was railing against interfaith marriage on Yom Kippur, he was preaching to a room that included non-Jews who had come that holy day, maybe to pray, and maybe out of an act of love for their Jewish family. This is why an increasing number of Reform and Reconstructionist clergy are choosing to perform interfaith weddings under various circumstances, and why some conservative rabbis are too. We know the power that comes from welcoming these Jewish plus families into communities of meaning and purpose. Heck, more than half of my rabbinical school classmates had a non-Jewish parent. They understood better than any generation of rabbis before them what is possible when we act as greeters, not gatekeepers. They understood that our diversity is our superpower, not a threat to it. Believing you are an ever-dying people authorizes people to be gatekeepers. Sometimes they are minding the gates because they think they must keep others out. Sometimes they are minding the gates to keep people in, but neither works, because in truth we are not dying, we are thriving. Each generation in new ways. It was a damaging philosophy for Pinchas, and it's damaging in our day too. I am so proud of the work we do here to create a sense of sacred belonging for all, including the many Jewish adjacent people who make our community thrive. I am proud this year to be a Rukin Rabbinical Fellow with the 18 Doors organization, a nonprofit committed to making the Jewish community more welcoming to Jewish plus families. Over the next 2 years, I know I will learn many lessons that will help push our sacred belonging work even further. And I am proud to have been selected as the faculty person for Houston's first honeymoon Israel trip in November, a program which brings young, predominantly interfaith couples together for a low-cost trip to Israel. And I know we still have more work to do. There are still places where we act as gatekeepers, either as a community or as individuals. We still have places where we make assumptions, where we other, where we isolate. My challenge for all of us who are committed to sustaining this congregation as a vibrant and loving community is that we see ourselves as greeters at the gate, where we do not assume that everyone in this room is Jewish, but we do ensure that everyone in this room knows they belong here. Each of us can open doors to Jewish life for each other. That's as much your job as it is mine. In the end, perhaps even Pinchas took on this job. In the Torah scroll, where God promises the Brit Shalom, the covenant of peace, the Vav in Shalom is written with a little break in the middle. It is a reminder that the peace created through zealous gatekeeping is a broken peace. There is even a tradition that Pinchas is another name for Elijah, the prophet we invite to every bris and baby naming and Passover Seder. It's our way of showing him how wrong he was about the Jews being an ever-dying people, how Jewish life and Jewish creativity have thrived and grown in each generation. I like to think that Pinchas has come to see the error of his ways, that he gets a particular joy at sitting at a Seder table of families full of Jews and Jewish adjacent folks celebrating their freedom together, that he finds unique delight in the bris or baby naming where one parent is not Jewish but still joyously brings their child into this covenant. And in that way, the Vav, the Shalom, the peace, is repaired. It's a lesson Pinchas would have also learned by watching the movie Encanto. Mirabel's family wanted to keep her at a distance because she was different, and they deemed her less special, and so they decided that she was a threat to their magic. But what they learn is that they did not understand her unique power, her empathy, and ability to see each member of her family for who they truly were. What they learn is that they cannot thrive without her. And it is their exclusion of her that most threatens their magic. For too long, we have slammed doors in the faces of Mirabelles who we perceive as too different or not special enough to be a part of our community. But now we are called to recognize that each person comes here with their own unique gifts. It is our job to see and celebrate them. It is our job to ensure that this enchanted house that we call a synagogue is big enough for all who want to be here, for all who call us family. Shabbat Shalom. We continue now with Aleinu L'Shabeach, which can be found on page 282, and we invite you please to rise as the ark is opened.
Aleinu L'Shabeach L'Adon HaKol, Latet Gedula Liotzer Breshit, Shelo asanu kigoyi ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, Shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We take a few moments now for silent memory. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. On this Shabbat, our hearts go out in sympathy to the families of Lisa Joan Chernow and Louis Stoller, who were laid to rest in recent days. We also recall the yahrzeits, the anniversaries of the deaths of Albert Abramson, Richard Arnold, Dominique Arriaga, Esther Wyman Asheroff, Sarah Axelrod, Jamie Bearer, Fred Berg, Lenore Berman, Olga Breyer, Edward Buddy Brooks, Joan Beth Brown, Paul Brown, Anna Kaplan, Elaine Clark, Virgil Clark, Bradley Keith Cypress, Fosia Corrani Daney, Diane Dante, Francis Weinstein Davidson, Marianne Dreyfus, Barbara Dunn, Florence Edwards, Lena Eisenberg, Faye Ettinger, Gregory Finkelstein, Marks Finkelstein, Frank Friedel, Basami Friedman, Mary D. Gates, Maurice Garber, Elizabeth Weiss Gelber, Barry Gerber, Martha Goldie Green, Harold Sylvan Goldstein, Saul Golub, Esther Greenberg, Chester Grevsky, Esther Grossman, Frenick Grossman, Eudice Grossman, Philip Held, Sally Held, Isabel Smith Herstein, Lorraine Isaac Hoffler, Henry Jacob Horowitz, Charlene Joachim, Mona Faye Camion, Edward Karish, Morris Karp, Joseph Cates, Abe Morris Katz, Joan Keller, Florence Mormon Kern, Walter Klein, Jean Klein, Vera G. Klein, Mose Nathan Kraftcheck, Lester Landy, Clara Lauterbach, Judy Lauterbach, Abe Lavis, Harry Lavis, Jacob Levy, Doris Payne Levine, Goldie Levinson, Jerome Lipnick, Clara Lurie, Charlotte Shaler Lynch, Morris I. Mass, Miriam Mallon, Peter Milch, Mary G. Miller, Leon Miller, Helen Mullen, Rita Bell Morgan, Esther Moskowitz, Saul Perlis, Sheila Plasterick, Molly Myron Prizant, Ray Rachofsky, Alec Raucher, Shirley Reiser, Carrie Robinson, Emil Roddersman, Alan Rummelt, S. Sankari, Lisa Kurtz Shield, Lena S. Shield, Robert Schnitzer, Sherry Berman Schreiber, Amy Schwartz, Amy Beth Siegel, Joseph Siegel, Andrew Lionel Selig, Helen Goldfawn Shackett, Emma D. Simon, Lawrence P. Slavin, Regina Spiegel, Harold S. Stallero, Solomon Still, Mervyn Tatter, Sam Wagner, Joseph Wasserman, Louis E. Weinberg, Ida Kellen Werlin, Charles C. Willis, Mary Dinner Wolf, and Daniel Wolfert.
Joseph Wasserberg.
Thank you. We offer these words together and rise as a community on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'ama divrach yirtei v'amich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam omei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dikudsha brichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'ne'emata, tamiram be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Please be seated as we move from Kaddish to Kiddush. You can turn to page 5 to join us in the blessing over wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikraei kodesh, zeicher litziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
I'm fine. I'm wearing black, so it's good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
If you are here with us in the room, we hope you'll consider joining us for dinner. Even if you're not signed up, we have some extra seats. If you're watching online, we hope you enjoy dinner wherever you're eating it. And we are so grateful to you for being here. Our closing song this evening is Adon Olam on page 321.
Adon olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, le'ed nasa v'chefzo kol, azai melech shemo nikra. Ve'acharei kichlot hakol,
Please rise for the benediction. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu v'avotenu, our God and God of every generation before us, help to make us zealous for opening doors. Make us zealous for welcoming in. Make us zealous for expanding our family to include more and more joyous faces. Help us to be zealous for all of the miracles that happen every day, and help us to notice and thank you for them. Help us to rest on this Shabbat so that we can rise up again renewed and ready to do your work in this world. We thank you for the many blessings in our lives, and we say together, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We do it all. Thank you so much. Thanks for your compliment. We appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, hey, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
How long y'all been doing it? You too?
Oh, well, this is like our fourth, fifth time. Yeah, okay.
Lights Theater putting on a show.
Wow, well, hey, let us know.
We can rock the juice.
That gig will travel. Thank you.